Yes, Redison TV kwoli we bali kubanga okyagoberera tuli ku Capital FM Robert Chagulanyi Center mu kwali ali mu kwogera nsonga kakati nyagadde nkuletere ko part esooka then oluvanyuma ngenda kuletera part 2 kubanga program bali mugitemamu ebitundu bibiri basose part esose jenzi zo kuletera then part eyokubiri nayo ogenda kubanga ogifuna bwato naba kubanga subscribinga kirira wansawula bekigambo subscribe kikwateko kwata kadeka notification kakuyambako okubeera nga tomisinga nsonga yonna ate nzije tuberenga tweyongerayo. Redison TV kwoli we bali kubanga ogoberera soko ulirize part esooka naye biri mu luzungu sina budde ugenda bivunula wabula kankuwe speech ya president kakasa tojja kubulwa ngeri gyo bitegeeramu tusimbudde tuuliziganye nga party ene wedde then nkuletere party
wine. For a long time, that has been the name a lot of people have called you by. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for
you and I have known each other for a very long time.
Forever. Yeah. Yes. Do people even know that?
People don't know that.
Doesn't that put you in trouble?
We are not the same age. I'll have them know.
That's the usual disclaimer.
Yes. I think you and I met, I was probably a teenager at that point.
Maybe you were not a teenager
Not even a teenager yet. But you were also a young man still struggling through life. And I've never told you this, but because we've also never had an opportunity to sit in the same couch when I'm interviewing you. That's odd that in all my years of my career and your years of your career, I've never interviewed you.
You probably always looked at me through the lenses of the old bad Bobi wine, yeah?
But so there have been different points of your life and my life in my career where I have interacted with people who've talked about you, not knowing that I know you, and they've described you a certain way. And as the interview goes on, I'll give you bits and pieces of it.
Sure.
But I want you to take us at the beginning, anywhere, Mubutobu. Butandikira naye londa wotandikira, and take us there and let's start the story of Robert Chagulanyi.
Some of my favorite early memories are the memories in Kamocha when I was growing up with my mother, who was more or less a single mother. Not that she was separated from my husband, but because our father was in prison when we were growing up. We grew up in the ghettos of Kamocha, like you rightly put it, first in the old Acholi quarter, now Chifumbira, then shifted to Kontafrika zone.
Which is what people know now.
Yeah, where Firebase is. And like you mentioned, I used to see you as a little child passing by going.
And also Kamocha wasn't what it is today. In more ways than one, it still looks the same, but I think a lot has changed. I remember somebody describing you, a mutual friend at the time, saying that, and I'm going to use this in Luganda because it doesn't make sense when you translate it. Akagaya koka kakoze buli kimu kasala enviri kasiga enjala kase n'amazzi webale. And the person wasn't describing hearsay. They were describing parts of you they knew, that they've literally said amazzi bwegabula ku kyalo ajja gasena bweyagala okusala enviri ajja zisala. Like you were the actual definition of a hustler at the time, because today we say a hustler naye nga kirongoseemu, isn't it? But you were the real definition of a hustler.
Not just me, many young men and women of my generation were quite, tough hustlers when we were growing up. You see, the Kamocha of then, like you were mentioned, was a zoned Kamocha. I'll start from up where the city primary, later area primary school. There was a road dividing the up top.
Lohana, that area.
Yeah, government officials used to stay there in colonial days. It was the whites that used to stay there. Then after that road coming down to Kanjocha Street, that's where the Indians used to stay. And then after Kanjocha Street, there's that Kira Road. Up, it was the Indians. Then down, it was
even that route that has polyclinic or stage.
Exactly. Katia wabiranga wabaindi, but later on government officials. And then there's this old Kira Road. That's what divides you. On the upper side we have KCC flats, where people like the Julianas, the Baby Cools, Bella used to stay. And then after that, Chi Road, there's the down upper.
The Dangalas.
The Dangalas. That's where the Tumusime Flavias grew up. That's where the Bobi was, the Toolmans, etc. So it was a zoned place. And those zones were not enforced by officers. But
no, it was community.
Yeah, it was community. And it was engraved in our minds. You belong here, you don't belong
I was about to say, do you remember how the division was also in friendships? You had a circle that was from here, and this circle was from here.
And if you went below your circle, your parents would be so mad at you. So,
because you didn't belong.
Exactly.
I want to, because you're 10 children, but also I wanted to know, you said dad was in jail, and your dad has or had a political or leadership, let me call it leadership.
Involvement.
Yes. I wanted to know, so you were born in Gomba.
I was born in Kozi Hospital.
Kozi Hospital. And then, so Gomba is what you're calling home.
Yes.
Echalo chafe.
Yes.
When do you come to Kamocha? When does mom put a footing in Kamocha?
For clarity, we're not only 10. Just 10 children by my mother.
Okay.
Yeah. My father had 34 children, from different mothers, typical African man. And my grandfather was one of the founding members of the Democratic Party. And in 1980, after the rigged election, my grandfather and my father and some of our elder brothers joined General Museveni in that Bush war. Of course, now that caused so much problem, including our family losing everything they had. My grandfather passed away in that war. Right. I was born in that war. So, I'm a war child. But growing up, I was only growing up to stories. Right. Because being born in 82, by the time we come to 86, I'm just growing up out of the ruins. So it's only stories and pictures that I see of our family's glorious past, but born in the ghetto. So it is just that glorious past that was always used by my mother to tell us that where we are in the ghetto is not who we are. We were once greater people than we had been reduced to. And I spent all my life trying to get back to the rightful place
what you were.
That my mother told me I belonged to.
Everyone who was born in that era of war or transition from war to whatever, there are stories that are being told, especially if you had family that was involved.
Yeah.
Did you grow up around that, where you saw what the family stood for?
Yes.
And it was clear?
Yeah, it was very, very clear. It was very clear. It was taught to all of us.
Right.
Of course, now, I grew up in a family where my father was so staunch on that. My father made sure we learned that we are Catholics. We learned that we are Baganda. But most importantly, we learned that we are DP members. That's what my father tried so much to teach us. But my mother always taught us that we are in the mess that we ended up in because of politics. And she always taught us that the only thing that can pull us up from our ruins was the work of our hands.
Right.
And I worked so hard, and I listened to my mother like most boys do.
Like hard
and
work.
It worked.
Yeah.
And I succeeded. Musically, I became a star, fairly successful and all that, until the ghost of my father showed up in me again.
and the politics took over the hard work.
Exactly.
What was it like growing up? I mean, I get the time that, you and I met growing up, but you were already sort of a young adult. I want to know about younger Bobi Wine. I can hear you saying there were dreams. What was the thing you were looking at? As a young boy, what did you enjoy? What kind of, childhood did you actually have?
I had a rather interesting childhood. I didn't play sports. I was fairly physically weak growing up, but I was very intelligent. I only excelled in things like debate and performing arts. Like I said, I was born in Kozi Hospital, but that was during the wartime. So we never lived in one place for more than 6 months.
Right.
We were in Kozi, then we went to Chotera, and then after the end of the war, we came back to Kamocha to live with my mother, because even after the war ended, my father was still a political prisoner, and he stayed in prison up to 1988 when he was released. So late 88 when he was released, he came for us from Kamocha in 89 to reunite all of us back in Gomba. I lived in Gomba for a few years, but because for the time when my father was away, my mother had established herself in Kamocha, where her father was born, because my grandfather, my mother's father, is a renowned gentleman called Mordecai Chiyinji. So we came back to Kamocha to live with our mother.
Was that your choice at that point? Are you an adult making that choice for yourself, or daddy saying it's okay?
I never made any choices in my life.
Right.
I always went by the parents.
Right.
Yeah. I was a troublesome child.
That's honest.
You know, yeah, very troublesome. I believe that I wouldn't have turned out the way I am if it was not my mother. My mother beat the hell out of me. I have so many scars from my mother.
She had to.
Yeah. I had elder brothers, the likes of Eddie Awe, Nyanzi.
In the line of the 10 from your mother, you're number what?
Chairman Nyanzi comes first, then Eddie Awe comes second, then I have a sister called Namuleme, she's third, then we have a brother who is a pastor called Pastor Sentamu, he's fourth, then my brother Julius, fifth, and then I come number six.
Number 6.
Then I'm followed by Banjo Man, Manager John, Mickey Wine, and Dax Vibes is the last born. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not a bad number, but
it's not a hard number.
Also,
but we also have a special sister.
Yes, the only girl in the boys. I mean, I understand. Mom, you said mom was in medicine.
Mom was a midwife.
A midwife.
Yeah.
If in hindsight, now when you look back at the years, how did she do it? Raising all those boys.
Man, I don't know, because she would work either the night shift in Molago and day shift she was running a clinic in Kamocha. And when she worked daytime in Molago, she would
be on the clinic at night.
On the clinic at night. But one thing that I remember is that we would feed on hospital food. Since my mother was working at Molago, she would have a tiffin. Tiffin,
yes, container.
So we would go with an empty tiffin, as if we are taking food for some Mulwade. But then she would put food for us.
To feed how many?
To feed us. We needed food. So we would, whatever the medics would eat, we would carry home as well and eat.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
it was good food, don't say what. It was good food.
It wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad at
all. Your family, and by family I mean because we grew up hearing stories of when your mom passed, that most of the either little partitions or homes or houses there were owned.
Yes.
I think when they say your family, they mean your mother.
Yes.
Life tells me that if you own anything, then poverty isn't part of your life.
Yeah.
So how did the dynamics work? There was some money, but not enough money.
Initially, there wasn't any money, but Flavia, I was born to the most enterprising woman I've ever seen. Our mother, I think I was much younger when she bought that plot in Kamocha, where now Dream Studio and Firebase sits.
Right.
But I grew up.
What was it before? It was just a home?
No, there was a garage there.
Okay.
There was a garage and there was a small plot of land. But after my mother bought it, my elder brothers, Eddie Awe and Nyanzi, helped her put up a shack.
Okay.
You know, our house was a mud house initially.